Hey everybody, welcome to Side Week House Church video. This past Sunday we talked from a passage in Mark 7 about Pharisees, and they were concerned that Jesus' disciples weren't washing their hands in the right way, and we talked through a little bit about how they were viewing those kinds of rules and regulations as being more important, and Jesus gets quite upset with them and argues with them in a way to say that, like, it's not about the rules and regulations when you say that things that people have made up kind of cancel out what God has already said, and he's calling them to return to what God has said and to follow that. And so for me, as I was studying through that this week, the question mark came up as, where am I doing that? Where am I saying this is the way it means to be a Christian? But really, that's not necessarily a biblical idea. It's not something that's found in the Bible. And so it's not necessarily bad things to be doing, but they're not the most important things. They're not the things that really God cares about. And they can actually become things that will hinder other people from experiencing God, because I'm saying they have to do it my way, and it's not actually my way, or they have to do it my culture's way, and it's not necessarily God's way. And so that for me was a really big question that I wanted to answer. And just as I go forward and start thinking and praying through this kind of stuff. And then that leads me to the light bulb moment. And the light bulb for me really was this realization that Jesus is very relatable to people. He really does really wants that relationship with not just his disciples and not just with us, but he really wanted that with the Pharisees. And so the idea that the Pharisees were doing everything wrong and Jesus is just kind of sticking it to them and yelling at them and saying, get away, you don't know what you're doing, that's actually not what's going on. Jesus isn't being unkind to them as much as he's engaging them in the way that they have that banter. He's relating to them. And so for me, that light bulb just about Jesus can relate to all of us in ways that we might not even recognize are in other people. And he's just at his core really wanting that relationship, really driving that relationship, because he is our Father, he is our friend, he is in relationship with his people. And so for me, that was a really big light bulb moment, that Pharisees aren't a synonym for jerks, but Pharisees really are people who are concerned about the rules and wanting to know God better through them, but Jesus can still relate to them that way. And so just that reassurance that Jesus is relating to me in all of the different ways that my personality shows my faith, in the way that my personality struggles with faith, he's relating in all of those different ways. So for me, that was a really big light bulb. And then for my arrow, I didn't really talk too much about this in the message on Sunday, but for me, the big kind of takeaway is, who do I have in my life that are the prophets who will tell me where my culture and where my own biases are saying that you need to follow things my way and they're not necessarily biblical? If all the people in my life look exactly like me, have the same culture as me, are the same generation as me, then we're never going to find those things. We're going to speculate on them, but we're not actually going to find them. And so who do I have in my life that I can see as a prophet to say, actually, the Bible doesn't say that, Lydia. You don't have to think that way. That's not necessarily a bad way of relating to God, but you don't have to do it that way. That's not what's actually being said. And so to find those prophets and then to listen to them and ask them questions about how do they relate to God and how do they see God within the context of their own culture. And then I can be the prophet for them too on their blind spots. But really that conviction to go and diversify my circles so that I have people who can speak into that. So have fun discussing the different light bulbs, question marks, and arrows that you have come up with from the sermon. And then also make sure, because it's Side Week, to check in with each other. How are everybody doing? And just kind of check in to see where you're at with your faith and how things are going and what maybe you're struggling with. Take time to pray for one another and to really be that community for one another that we need to keep on spurring us on. Have a great time at House Church. Thanks.